boy bubbled on. "Can't be more than 1.5 miles afar." "Come down from that ladder and take your station," Charles said. "We'll be up to them soon enough."
"I see a 4-decker, sir, and a bunch of 3-deckers. Oh, my God!"
Exasperated, Charles jumped to the ladderway and grabbed the apparently deaf midshipman by the back of his coat.
"Look, the flagship's signalling again," the boy squealed.
Charles looked down the line of ships until he saw the signal flags on Victory's halyards, repeated by the frigate Niger, standing to windward. "Admiral intends to pass through enemy line." At the same moment, he saw clouds of smoke erupt from the sides of the nearest Spanish warships, answered immediately by a broadside from Culloden. A moment later, the sound of the great guns rumbled like distant thunder. "Get to your station," he said to the boy. "You can watch through a gun port." The roll of cannon fire grew more intense as the British line engaged the Spanish fleet. Charles felt beads of clammy sweat under his arms. He began nervously drumming his fingers against his trouser leg. It came to him that despite the span of time he had spent in the Navy, he had never seen one of the great guns fired in anger. He had been told by others who had survived major fleet actions off Toulon or on the glorious 1st of June of the giddy jubilation that went with delivering a deafening broadside into an opponent, and the horror of receiving the full weight of a well-delivered salvo. But Charles had not experienced it, and now he would. He wondered how he would react. Some men, he had heard, rose in stature and determination as the world exploded around them. Others became paralyzed, unable to function, their only thought to protect themselves. The former were heroes, the latter cowards. It was as simple as that. Everyone said so. He forced himself to stop rapping his fingers against his leg, deliberately rested one hand on his sword hilt, placed the other behind his back, and stood as apparently relaxed and indifferent to the approaching battle as he was able to manage. He caught occasional glimpses of Spanish warships through the forward gun ports, including what he thought was the gigantic flagship Santissima Trinidad, with 130 guns on 4 decks, the largest ship in the world. It was maddening not to be able to see anything of the progress of the battle. He didn't want to climb the ladder to the upper deck. That would invite a rebuke from the captain for leaving his post. He also didn't want to gawk through a porthole like a common landsman. "Mr. Bowles," he shouted, "get back up the forward ladderway and tell me what you see."
"Aye, aye."
The boy cheerfully scurried away. After a moment, he called down,
"The Culloden's almost through their line, sir. The Victory and the Egmont are just coming into range. There's still a ways afore us."
"Do you see any damage?"
"Hard to say, sir. There's so much smoke. Seems most everybody's masts are still standing, though."
"What are the Spaniards doing?"
"The bigger group, the one to windward, is sort of sliding to the north-like. I think they'll run with the wind back to Spain. Can't tell what t'other bunch are doing. Kind of circling about, tacking-like."
"Thank you, Mr. Bowles. Let me know if anything important happens." A cheer broke out on the upper deck.
"A Dago's lost the mast, I think," came Bowles's voice. "Culloden has hoisted a signal. Acknowledge, I think."
"Acknowledge what?" Charles asked.
"Oh, I see. The Admiral telegraphed for Culloden to tack and come back at the Spanish. We're all supposed to tack in succession when we get through the Spanish line, it says."
"How long till we're in range?"
"About 2 more ships, and we'll be up to the first, right after Captain and Excellent. Wait, the Spaniards, the smaller group what was milling about, they've all come up to where our boys were turning. They've shot off some yards of Colossus's foremast. Orion's backed and covering her. Oh, my God! Here comes Victory! Oh, such a broadside she just gave!"
"Lieutenant Edgemont!" The first lieutenant's voice boomed down from the quarterdeck. "A Spanish warship's approaching to the starboard. You may fire as your guns bear." "Aye, aye, sir," Charles called back. "Starboard guns, aim true for the waterline," he yelled to the captains of his gun crews. "Prepare to fire on my command." At the forwardmost cannon, he knelt down and peered along the thick black barrel out of the gun port. Almost immediately, the Spanish 74, with all sails set and gloriously ornamented with red and gold paint, sailed into view on the opposite tack. She had already been considerably knocked about. She had holes in her courses, and her hull was scarred. As soon as he was satisfied that the gun would hit her, he jumped back and shouted, "Fire!" The gun captain yanked on his lanyard. Instantly, the cannon erupted with a thunderous bang and leapt backward against its restraining tackle. Since they were firing to windward, the smoke billowed back into the gun-port, momentarily obscuring any view. Charles knelt by the second gun, stepped back, and again barked, "Fire!" At the same time he heard and felt the larger 24-pounder cannon on the lower gun deck explode in a single broadside, heeling the ship with their recoil. The two ships were passing a good deal faster than he'd anticipated, so he yelled, "Fire as you bear!" The remainder of his starboard cannon crashed inward as one, the wind filling the gun deck with the acrid smoke of burnt gunpowder. Charles saw that the Spaniard was now well astern. She had suffered little, if any, additional damage. He let out a deep breath, and was about to congratulate himself on his coolness under fire, when he realized that his target had not discharged a gun in her haste to escape. Where was the rest of the Spanish fleet? Despite the risk to his dignity, Charles knelt by a starboard gun-port and peered out. The larger body to windward sailed briskly northward out of cannon range. A glance to larboard told a similar story. The smaller squadron, he counted 8 ships of the line, was tacking across the rear of the British line, where they would rejoin their sister ships. Charles searched in vain to starboard and port for the other British warships. They had to be more or less dead ahead or still in the process of turning. He had almost decided that the enemy was bound to escape. The Jervis's fleet could not possibly come about in time, when he heard the shouted order, "All hands to airship!" from the quarterdeck, and the sounds of pounding feet as sailors rushed to the shrouds and braces. He looked at the young midshipman still standing near the top of the ladderway. "What the hell's going on, Bowles?" "We've gotten us a signal from the flagship. Our number, just our number. We're to wear and engage the enemy more closely." Charles bounded for the ladderway to see for himself. The main body of the Spanish fleet was already well to the north and clear of the British line. Very soon they would turn to the east, and with the wind behind them, collect the smaller squadron to make all haste for Spain, escaping virtually intact. The Argonaut had already turned, and he saw that she was now on a course to cross just in front of the main body. He looked desperately around for the rest of the British warships. The Culloden, Blenheim, Prince George, and the rest of the British van that had already tacked were adding sail after sail in pursuit of the Spanish rear. Others, which had been toward the rear of the British line, Excellent and Captain among them, had worn after Argonaut in response to a second general signal from Victory to engage the enemy more closely, which still flew. None of them would reach the Argonaut anywhere near in time to support her in what she alone was in position to do: stop, or at least delay, a Spanish squadron of perhaps 12.5 heavy men-of-war. "We're the only ones who can reach 'em, you see, sir," said Bowles's small voice beside him. "Yes." Charles's eyes grew wide as he studied the onrushing mass of 2- and 3-decked warships, with the immense Santissima Trinidad somewhere near the centre. All of them were larger and more heavily armed than the Argonaut. He put his hand on the boy's shoulder and felt him shaking. "It will be all right if we just do our jobs," he said, well aware that there was no truth in it. "Get back to your station," Charles said, leading the boy back down to the gun deck. "Port side, run out your guns." The Spanish fleet, bows on, could clearly be seen through the weather gun-ports. Charles counted 4 large ships of the line nearly abreast at the front of the mass. "How do we know which to aim for?" the captain of a nearby gun crew asked. "Anyone you like," Charles answered. "Mr. Bowles, get below to the magazine, and tell the gunner that we shall probably need more powder cartridges, all he can make." "Aye, aye, sir." "And Mr. Bowles, on your way down, please convey my respects to Lieutenant Bevan, and say that I expect him to do better than during practice, when he very nearly sank the ship's jolly boat." Bowles grinned. "He won't like that, sir." "Sod him. And you can tell him that I said that, too." Daniel Bevan, a Welshman, the 3rd lieutenant and Charles's closest friend on the Argonaut, commanded the lower gun deck. The 2 men were much the same age, and Charles Edgemont was the senior officer by a matter of only 1.5 weeks. As soon as Bowles had gone, another midshipman, with fine, almost delicate features, and attired in a perfectly tailored uniform, appeared at Charles's elbow. Charles had taken something of a dislike to him. His name was Winchester something. He was 18 or 19, and soon to stand for lieutenant. He was also said to be the son of a well-connected and wealthy barrister from York. Charles thought him